WNBA finals. And so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. I'm a human too. I have a family. I have two kids who are devastated by these comments. And so all I'll say is just, it's
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Clark Update. I hope you are all having a truly amazing day. Today, I have got another deeply exciting and highly interesting video for you. And if you are a true Caitlin Clark fan, you are definitely going to want to watch this video all the way until the very end. Before we get started, let me know you are part of the Clark Update Army by commenting CC 100% below. I love seeing all the amazing Clark fans in the comments. Now, without wasting any more of your time, let us jump straight into today's video. In professional sports, they say that no individual is ever truly greater than the league itself. The commissioner always holds the gavel, and the league shield will always defend itself. But there are exceptions to every single rule, and that exception has a very clear name in the WNBA. Clark. Caitlin. The old guard of the WNBA and the brand new wave that Clark represents have been engaged in a silent, bitter war for the entire past year. However, that quiet Cold War has suddenly heated up dramatically. WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is reportedly absolutely furious behind closed doors following a massive, significant announcement about NBC and the future of their media rights. This was far more than just a commercial transaction. The whole story was taken over hostilely, leaving the front office reportedly in a total panic. They are realizing they have completely lost control of their most valuable asset because the league dynamics have changed so drastically. There is much more to this story you are about to hear than just basic basketball. It has to do with massive money, bitter jealousy, and the heartbreaking realization that the entire WNBA establishment made a huge mistake. Instead of humbling a rising celebrity, they handed her the keys to the entire kingdom. It is said that Commissioner Engelbert is blowing up because she has finally come to terms with this highly unpleasant reality. The WNBA is not necessary for Caitlin Clark's survival. In fact, she is absolutely essential to the WNBA. Additionally, Clark now has the power to dictate terms because of NBC, and the commissioner is completely powerless to stop her. We really need to consider the full scope of what recently transpired with NBC in order to comprehend why the commissioner is allegedly losing her temper like this. We know that the WNBA negotiated a record-breaking 11-year media rights agreement worth about $2.2 billion. On paper, this certainly appears to be a massive victory for Commissioner Engelbert. She can easily claim to have saved the league while standing proudly at the podium. However, a completely different picture starts to emerge when you examine the fine print and network behavior in greater detail. For the WNBA itself, NBC did not actually pay that much. They paid that massive sum specifically for the Caitlin Clark show. There are heavy rumors circulating that NBC's strategy focuses almost entirely on Clark-centric programming, the WNBA's decades-old marketing approach, where everyone is equal, simply does not appeal to them. They are fully aware that the high ratings originate from a single individual, and they want those ratings. Naturally, this has caused a huge split. The commissioner wants to promote the notion of the 144, where every single roster slot is valued. On the other hand, NBC is using the entire league as a personal star vehicle. The television network has essentially completely bypassed the commissioner's authority by siding so strongly with Clark. Commissioner Engelbert is completely unable to order NBC to stop broadcasting Caitlin Clark. If the viewership numbers do not support it, she cannot force them to focus on the New York Liberty or the Las Vegas Aces. There was much more to that announcement than just games airing. It was a clear sign that the television networks are now fully in charge, and that number 22 is their chosen queen. However, the commissioner had a major migraine after the NBC contract. We must now discuss the new Unrivaled League. This was meant to be the WNBA's major moment of sisterhood during the long off-season. If you appreciate this content, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 90% of our viewers have not subscribed yet. It is completely free and only takes a single second, but it truly means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your amazing support. Now, back to the video. This 3-on-3 league, which was co-founded by stars Breanna Stewart and Nafi Sakalir, was marketed as the absolute best place for elite athletes to earn serious money and maintain their fitness throughout the entire winter. they needed one crucial thing to make it really feasible, even though they already had the money: the players and the buzz. The Unrivaled League reportedly threw absolutely everything at Caitlin Clark. We are talking about a massive deal akin to Lionel Messi's contract, featuring a salary of over $1 million, league equity, and enormous incentives. It was an incredible offer that was designed to be virtually impossible to turn down. The veterans of the league and the commissioner likely anticipated that Clark would fall in line, accept the massive check, and elevate their stature. Then, the ultimate shocker occurred. Caitlin Clark simply said no. She completely turned down the opportunity to play alongside the elites for millions of dollars, leaving the front office utterly rocked by her rejection. Why did she do it? It was a power move, Clark telling them she does not need their cash or their validation. By turning down those offers, she completely starved the new league of the much-needed attention they wanted. This proved that besides the hostile clique she dealt with all year, she is building her own empire. That is a total disaster for Angelbert. It shows that Clark lacks self-control and is entirely willing to walk away from the table, leaving the rest of the league behind. We must study Angelbert's personal life to understand why she is reportedly on the verge of blowing up. Her public reputation has suffered greatly. However, NBC was not the actual source of friction between Clark and the commissioner. At first, there was only silence. Fans watched Clark get targeted with hard fouls and unnecessary physical contact all season long, which often looked more like rookie hazing than basketball. Through all of that, the league office remained remarkably and completely silent. People believed that by refusing to protect the rookie, Angelbert was simply scared of upsetting the veteran players. And then, the interview that changed everything happened. When asked about the toxic climate and the dark cloud of fan drama, Angelbert gave a rambling corporate answer about rivalries boosting overall viewership. She compared that online hate speech to the classic Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson rivalry, which was a tone-deaf disaster. Immediately, the Players Union, the WNBA, attacked her. Clark's fans blasted her, and even the sports media turned against her. She was forced to issue a frantic public apology, but it was too late. This leadership failure left a massive void. It finally became clear to Clark that the commissioner would not protect her, making this NBC deal highly risky for Angelbert. These massive media corporations are basically Clark's new protectors. The commissioner knows she fumbled the bag, which is why she is angry. Instead of seizing the great opportunity to support the world's biggest rising star, she chose to play political games instead. Now, she is watching from the sidelines as Clark completely transcends the entire league. We cannot discuss this NBC story without mentioning the Olympics, which was the first real crack in the foundation. Many people saw leaving Caitlin Clark off the Team USA roster for Paris as a clear gatekeeping move by the veterans. They intended to send a message that you must wait your turn. Commissioner Angelbert openly backed the selection committee's choice by citing basketball reasons, but this is where the plot thickens even more. NBC, the television network broadcasting the Olympic Games, was reportedly absolutely furious. They knew having Clark on that team would have broken global viewership records for women's basketball. By leaving her off the team, the WNBA establishment lost millions of dollars in potential advertising revenue. Now, let us fast forward to today. For the upcoming WNBA season, NBC is focusing heavily on Clark because they will not let the old guard cost them money again. The commissioner is fully aware of the television network's lingering resentment over that massive Olympic selection blunder. This aggressive push to focus everything on Clark is almost like payback from the media giants, forcing the league to do what they should have done back in the summer. Simply put, keep the star on screen. Managing a locker room full of players who are reportedly absolutely consumed with jealousy only adds to the commissioner's massive stress. The latest statement from NBC confirms exactly what many veterans fear, that the entire sport now rises and sets with Caitlin Clark. For months, legends like Cheryl Swoops and Diana Taurasi have tried to minimize Clark's overall impact, warning that a reality check is coming or refusing to credit her for growth. But this new NBC deal is hitting them with reality instead. The players who have been there for 10 years are not worth billions of dollars to the major networks. They are paying for the rookie, which leaves Angelbert in a difficult position where she has to maintain some harmony. The Powerful Players Union deeply dislikes the concept of one athlete receiving preferential treatment over everyone else. However, the commissioners simply cannot argue with the economics. She is stuck between a deeply frustrated, angry workforce and NBC, a corporate partner that only cares about the one player that her workforce despises. Since this is a massive pressure cooker, it makes sense that rumors claim she is about to blow up. She is trying to manage fragile player egos in a world where the market has already clearly decided the winner. The internal conflict within sports media is another layer to this story, casting serious doubt on the league's authority, as we saw with Hall of Famer and legend Cheryl Swoops. For months, she manipulated statistics, refused to say her name on live broadcasts, and took subtle and sometimes very overt jabs at Clark. The public backlash eventually became so intense that Swoops was basically pulled from the broadcasting booth for a scheduled game. The network's higher authorities sent an incredibly clear message to everyone. Do not harm the product. And Caitlin Clark is that product. While WNBA legends should be protected according to Commissioner Angelbert, but the TV networks are clearly demonstrating that they will instantly sever relations with anyone who poses a threat to their ultimate golden goose, including a beloved legend like Swoops. This situation once again compromises the commissioner's overall authority. It sends a clear message to every analyst and commentator: either get off at this stop or board the Clark train. Because the big media partners will no longer tolerate the wave of hatred that the league allowed to grow for so long, Angelbert is rapidly losing her grip on the narrative. Let us put an end to the chatter and talk about the cold, hard cash. This is exactly where the commissioner's stress stems from, because historically, the WNBA has suffered massive financial losses. The NBA actively provided financial subsidies for more than 25 years. Then Caitlin Clark showed up. All of a sudden, arenas are completely sold out. Sales of player jerseys have surged by 500%. Because the money is now there to support them, charter flights are finally being authorized. The commissioner is fully aware of the sheer vulnerability of the WNBA's sudden solvency, especially since nearly all of it is built directly on the Clark effect. The entire bubble instantly collapses if Clark gets hurt, decides to take a break, or chooses to play over in Europe. There are probably specific terms and high audience expectations in the NBC contract that directly depend on Clark performing. This gives Clark an incredible amount of power. In any normal negotiation, the employer holds the upper hand. But in this case, a single worker actually represents the league's entire financial economy. When Angelbert finally realizes she is no longer the one in charge, she completely starts blowing up. She is basically managing a house that Caitlin Clark completely built. The commissioner simply has to listen to Clark's request to adjust scheduling, travel plans, or media protocols, since doing anything else would trigger complete and absolute financial devastation. But that media agreement was not the only source of tension. The actual schedule itself became a massive problem. Early in the season, fans noticed something quite strange. The game schedule handed to the Indiana Fever was incredibly harsh. They faced more games against the league's toughest teams during that opening month than almost anyone else, leading many outsiders to believe it was a deliberate setup. It genuinely looked like the league office was throwing Clark straight into the deep end, hoping she would sink so the critical narrative that she desperately needed to adapt would permanently stick. But if that was indeed their plan, it backfired spectacularly, because Clark survived the entire ordeal and absolutely thrived. Now that NBC is in the picture, those scheduling dynamics will probably shift. In order to keep Clark fresh and healthy for national television, networks will demand primetime slots, proper rest days, and marquee matchups that maximize viewership. Now, those network executives will have to deal directly with the commissioner's office, which ultimately controls the schedule. Angelbert will no longer be able to use the schedule to maintain overall league balance. The commissioner's ability to uphold the 144 equality policy will be further undermined by the schedule's focus on a single player. The commissioner is also sweating because of another key group in this equation: the big corporate sponsors. Even though massive brands like Wilson, Nike, and Gatorade are currently investing heavily in the league, their marketing is still directed primarily toward Clark. In particular, Clark has signed a massive contract with Nike that apparently exceeds her entire WNBA yearly income. Due to this bizarre dynamic, Clark could easily show more loyalty to her sponsors than to the league, and she would skip the Unrivaled league if Nike advises her to do so. If NBC requests a halftime interview, she will happily do it. The commissioner is slowly coming to the painful realization that she has far less control over her star player than these corporate giants, even though securing brand sponsorships for the league remains Angelbert's responsibility. But the league office starts to look completely unnecessary when major sponsors are only interested in the player. The explosion we are hearing about is likely a direct response to these sponsors going straight to Clark's personal attorney instead of talking to Angelbert. Being left completely out of the loop in her own sport is deeply embarrassing for any commissioner. We also have to talk about the fans. While Clark has brought in millions of new followers, the WNBA has always had a fiercely loyal, though small, fan base. Instead of supporting the actual WNBA, they are solely loyal to Caitlin. They have openly attacked the referees, the commissioner, and other league players. There is a huge fan uprising targeting Angelbert. Every single time she makes a mistake, thousands of angry comments on social media demand her resignation. And these fans are heavily encouraged by the NBC announcement. It completely confirms their view that Clark is the single most important factor. The commissioner is actively trying to avoid upsetting the millions of new fans who pay the bills, while simultaneously appeasing traditional legacy fans who completely detest this massive cultural shift. That balancing act is practically impossible. In essence, the new fans feel fully validated by the NBC announcement proving they were completely correct. It clearly tells them she is the definitive star, pushing the commissioner even further away from the core WNBA culture she originally came out of. Because of this, she is quickly losing both the public's trust and control of the locker room. One of the most highly controversial aspects of this story was how the league responded to serious allegations of racism and toxicity. Instead of dealing directly with the actual behavior on the court, certain prominent members of the media and the league totally misrepresented the fans' harsh treatment of Clark as toxic. It was a clever deflection strategy, but that game plan is no longer working. The league can no longer hide behind their niche storylines now that NBC is delivering a massive global audience to these games. Every single piece of commentary will be micro-analyzed and the broadcast cameras will be in sharp 4K. Come next season, any cheap shot directed at Clark will explode far beyond a simple argument on Twitter. The Today Show is going to run a whole segment on it, and the commissioner knows. She knows she has to polish the league's image now that NBC is turning up the heat. Casual fans are just not going to tolerate physical play that looks like actual assault. Even more internal drama is brewing because Angelbert is forced to crack down on the exact veteran players she wanted to protect. And that brings up the absolute powder keg of a question: what happens next? Looking at the 2025 season, the commissioner is staring at an unfamiliar landscape. The Golden State Valkyries are set to join the league while the pressure reaches an all-time high during this period of expansion. Rumor has it that Clark's team knows their leverage and might start making real demands, and now everyone is traveling privately. Security has stepped up and officiating is changing. It used to be that any rookie making demands would be laughed right out of the room. But if Clark shows signs of being unhappy, top NBC executives would likely be calling the commissioner within mere minutes to ask, how do we fix this? Because Angelbert is no longer the supreme authority in the room. To avoid getting fired by the big networks and executives, she is operating like a middle manager who has to keep her star talent happy. Even if her title remains exactly the same, this is a humiliating drop in real power. As we wrap this up, the picture is completely clear. The classic WNBA was finished the moment NBC made that major announcement. Reports suggest that Commissioner Kathy Angelbert is furious about being totally outmaneuvered. The market absolutely demanded a superstar despite all her efforts to protect that old school everyone gets a trophy mindset. Caitlin Clark has clearly shown that she is the absolute center of attention across the entire WNBA, successfully rallying backing from the biggest media giants on earth while completely ignoring the league's desperate pleas. The loud sound of a massive paradigm shift can be heard in this front office explosion. This is simply not a charity project anymore. The league is a major business, and in big business, you do not fight the money. Right now, that money is Caitlin Clark. It simply does not matter anymore. If the commissioner is upset, the veterans are jealous, or the critics are incredibly vocal. This revolution is absolutely going to be televised. Caitlin Clark is going to lead the charge, and it will all air on NBC. The final burning question is whether Commissioner Angelbert will become yet another casualty of this new Caitlin Clark era, or if she can actually adapt to this rapidly shifting environment. But that is not the entire story. Just when you think everything is settled down, rumors are swirling about another power move on the way, one that could involve the actual players' union itself. But that is a story for another time. Thank you so much for watching.